We're waiting for people. I think by the time we hit about, hold on a second. Ezekiah, you can moderate the meeting now. I mean, can you speak now? Ezekiah.
Yes, sir.
All right. So I've been expecting that you take charge of the meeting.
Yeah.
Now we have about 9 people in attendance. So
Can we
not further waste time. Sorry?
You can wait for like 15 minutes after 7, sir.
All right, it's okay. It's okay.
Yes, sir. Very, sir.
All right, Ezekiah, I think by my own time here, it's 15
Okay,
minutes
sir.
past 7.
Okay, sir.
So can you welcome us
Can
to the meeting now before I take off?
can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you,
Hello?
and I believe others can hear you. I can hear
All right.
you,
Okay, sir. Good evening,
and I
everyone.
believe others can hear you too.
Yeah. Trust our day was good. My name is Ezekiel Latunji, and I will be the moderator for tonight's training. And firstly, I would like to enjoin us to have our expectation set high up, because tonight promises to be a great night. And while the training is going on, I will enjoin us to have a writing materials by our side, because it promises to be great. And our guy, I believe, is prepared for all the challenges we may think we will be facing concerning Bluebeam. So before he take over, I would like to just introduce him in a bit. Yeah, he's our boss, and he was he's the former zonal coordinator for YKSF, QS Babatope Sunkomi. He will be taking us through Bluebeam from A to Z tonight. And surely, at the end of tonight's meeting, I know you can boast of having a great knowledge about Bluebeam. Thank you very much. So I welcome our lecturer for tonight, K.S. Sukom. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Despite that introduction, realistically speaking, I want to believe, like, how many minutes do we have for this session?
You can continue.
I'm very sure in order not to make it unnecessarily long, I doubt if we can use more than 45 minutes to 1 hour. In order not to make it tiring. But why I mentioned that is, I wonder if we'll be able to capture from A to Z, like our moderator said. But I want to caption today possibly an introduction to Bluebeam. All right. Sorry, Ezekiel.
Yes, I will check the how many minutes you have. So.
All right. So just send me a message at any moment you just feel like we need to stop.
Right,
But I wish I have an idea so that I can see how to spread the time amidst between some of the things I feel we need to capture. Essentially, I call it an introduction to Bluebeam. Trusting God to give me the ability, what I intend to do is, Bluebeam has a lot of capabilities in manipulating PDFs. I hope to be able to touch on some of the capabilities. Then by our own personal ingenuity, the wideness of our thinking, we can then maximize the software to our use. But let me begin by talking about PDF. Now, what is the full meaning of PDF? PDF is fully defined as portable document format. Now, why am I saying, let me start by introducing what a PDF is. Now, over the course of time, through the use and even research on the issue of PDF and file formats, I came to understand that PDF by far has the most, it has a lot of use. The use is actually inexhaustible, permit me to say. And why do I say that? PDF is like a container. And why we're able to use PDF with Bluebeam for even quantity takeoff by way of markup is PDF you can add layers and layers and layers of information. We'll see as we demonstrate today on a PDF. And one advantage, like last week while I was making an introduction to this session, digitizing quantity takeoff using Bluebeam. Last week I mentioned that one of the advantages, we have several softwares that we can use for digitizing quantity takeoff. But one advantage that the PDF really has is anybody can view PDFs. I pray time affords us to get into the aspect of using PDF as an entry point into 3D modeling, or rather Bluebeam video information modeling. How we can work with 3D models already in PDF, or let me say in a PDF format. That ability is there. Now, the advantage is that imagine an investing client or even a quantitative who doesn't have, $2,000 to pay Autodesk for their full version of their Navis works, who doesn't have thousands of dollars to pay for some other softwares used in video information modeling. And maybe you don't have the responsibility of round tripping into video information modeling. What I mean by round tripping is that you don't need to feed in information. You just only need to capture information. Then all you just need essentially is generating the file. Then the person just generates a 3D PDF for a 3D model, the building model in PDF format, and send it to you. Then you can view any information. So now PDF has a wide range of use, and it's wide range of use. So as I'm going to start this evening, last week I've done some level of introduction on what is it that is digitizing quantity takeoff. It is primarily just using computer applications to do or carry out the tasks quantifying in either a building project, civil engineering project, or what have you. So now, amidst the variants, amidst the myriad of softwares that can play that role for us, we have Bluebeam, and we are focusing on Bluebeam tonight. So I will start by perhaps introducing the interface. I want us to all confirm. Let me briefly unmute everyone to confirm if you can, or just by way of text, can you just confirm if you can see my screen? Just perhaps indicate if you can see the screen. All right, Samuel Ogumola, yeah, okay. All right, so we want to believe everyone can see the screen. All right, fantastic. So now, if you freshly or newly install Bluebeam on your computer, and permit to say, even though a lot of questions came like last week, how do we get Bluebeam and what have you? And I answered some people. You can visit, you can just Google. Now, one beautiful thing, Bluebeam, the full version, costs about $599. That's approximately about 200,000 naira. It's relatively cheap. I can bet with compare it with other software. But I'm happy to announce to you as well that the trial version, which is supposed to be 30 days, now due to COVID-19, Bluebeam extended the trial version. Initially it was 90 days. They extended it to 90 days. But currently now, if you install as soon as possible, you can enjoy 60 days of free trial. The full version of the software. And 60 days of the full version. All right. So let me introduce the interface. Now you can see this dock here contains quite a number of tools that we use. On top of here, you have menus. You have the Review menu, where you can check about the software, some information about the software. You can set preferences here in terms of the background color. You like the bright one or the dark color that you are seeing on my screen. View mode, markup mode, profiles. Now, profiles, you have review, profile, review advanced, quantity takeoff. Now, essentially, the difference in these profiles is just what are the things you get to see when you select a particular profile. Like for the quantity takeoff profile, you can see the interface seems to have changed, in terms of it will prioritize measurement tools for takeoff. But I like the full review, where it definitely still has the measurement tool is still somewhere here. You understand? I still have access to it, but because we'll be seeing some other uses of Bluebeam Revu in terms of what you can do in terms of communication with other professionals, how we can mark up PDFs in order to send some information or call attention to certain area of some drawings. So as a result of that, I like to see the full version. Then I can pick whatever I really need to pick. So it's up to you. Then we have the file where you can create a blank PDF, or from a template. I hope time will permit, we can generate RFI form, for a particular item. So it's part of the template. Now, studio project, just like we know about cloud computing is becoming the main thing now. And like I mentioned earlier, Bluebeam and building information modeling has some characteristics. Apart from digitizing a complete building model. Now, one other characteristics of building information modeling is collaboration. Now, this new studio project has a lot to do with Studio, which is the component of a Bluebeam where you can host files in the cloud and then collaborate on files. Now, assuming you have teams on a project spread around the continent or the country, and you want to maintain working on a file, just one single file, let every one of us work on it to share information. Now you can host such file in the cloud through either, you can decide to do that through the common cloud storage services that we have, the kind of we have OneDrive, we have Dropbox, we have Google Drive, and a host of others. But now, you can use that to understand what I mean by the studio session of Bluebeam. So it's just about collaborating in the cloud. Then you can combine files. You can email templates. You can export a document. You can convert documents into pictures, convert documents into Word. You can convert a table into Excel. You can convert a file to PowerPoint presentation. So you get to do all that, and you can as well print. Now, one characteristic I must mention about Bluebeam: the moment you install Bluebeam on your computer, it will install a PDF printer on your computer, such that not only will it install a PDF printer, it always installs Bluebeam PDF plugins into several other applications you have on your computer, especially Office. So, like, assuming I am on the web and I really want to, perhaps I've just got some information on the web and I like to print this information, because I've installed Bluebeam on my computer, I can go here and then see more. Then you can see Bluebeam here, Bluebeam PDF as a printer. So I can generate a PDF, from virtually anything. You can see the plugin I'm talking about. This is installed in my Excel as a result of, I believe you can all see my cursor, right? So at this corner, this top right corner of this Excel file, you can see this is a plugin installed by Bluebeam on my Excel application. So So that's then edit. You can edit files. Maybe you did something, you can undo. Although there are also shortcuts, you know, Control Z, Control Y. Somebody said the most powerful tool in computer is Control Z. If you make a mistake, you can undo. All right. Now, so you can cut, copy, paste, delete. You know, you can edit context. You can edit PDF. There's something on a PDF file you really don't want anybody to see, or you want to remove. You can just cut it out, erase it, or what have you. Then you can view, rotate, fit into page, manipulate your view. Then you can insert headers. I mean, imagine you're having a page of a document of about 400-500 pages, and then you want something to appear. It's a PDF format, and you want something to appear in the headers and footers. You can do that here, and if you apply it to all of the pages. Now, there's something about collaboration in construction industry, which we call coordination of drawings. Now, you will agree with me that there are instances where the architect has done his own drawings, the M&E guys have done their own drawings. Now, the usual practice with traditional procurement is that you get to site before you discover that there is one element in my structural drawing that is clashing with my mechanical and electrical drawing. But in our own little way with these 2D drawings that our architects are creating, if they deliver them to us in PDF, we can overlay some of these. We can overlay some of these things. I hope time will allow me to demonstrate this. You know, overlay files, so that you can see where, at least in your own little way, the little clashes that you can observe. Or, assuming you want to compare two drawings and see what are the changes they have made, you can do that with these two tools. You know, you can manipulate that with these two tools. So, so let me just not waste time. You know, you can split documents, you can rotate pages, you can split documents, pages. As in a document, you can split it into several pages. You can do quite a number of things with these documents. So let me go straight to, because time is fast running. We're already at 7:32, and then we have not even started. So that's about the interface of Bluebeam. Now, so let me start. Assuming I want to start working on a drawing, how do I get to open the drawing? So Control O, like we always know, works always. So, but as well, I can come to File and click what? Open. Now, so I can decide to open any file from wherever they are. Let me see what file I can open at this time. Okay, just for the sake of argument, let me open this. This is not an annex. This is not a comprehensive architectural drawing. This is just a drawing for illustration. But however, you can see that's one way to open a file. Alternatively, you can as well come to wherever a file is in your what is it called, on your computer, and then this is a PDF file. In order to open with Bluebeam, you could just right click and then come to open with, and then you find Bluebeam as an option. So that's one way to open a file. Then alright, we are quantity surveyors. So primarily, I'm very sure we are all interested about, so how does this thing? Okay, one thing about the interface I failed to mention is that, thank God this thing brought my attention to that. Now, if you look at the bottom of this window, now you get to see this section called markup list. Now, so as I was about introducing that, I'm sure many of us are interested in, I'm a quantity surveyor. All I'm interested in is how can we measure with these. Alright, so now when you open Bluebeam, and straight away what you want to do is just to measure, the tab that essentially contains the tools that we require for measurement is this tab called measurement. So now if you open your Bluebeam and you really cannot find, you just right click a blank side of this dock and then you come to show. Then so whatever tab that doesn't exist that you really want to make use of, definitely it's going to be here. Assuming the measurement wasn't showing, so you can see that this is highlighted now, means they are all active. Now if I want to make inactive some of these, for example, I don't want these to, what is it I don't want, let's say I don't want the bookmark to show. Obviously the bookmark, okay, it was showing, it wasn't showing already, but now it's showing. So so for just anything that doesn't show initially, but you want it to show or you want to remove it, just come here and then do whatever you want to do with it. So measurement. Now there are quite a number of tools for measurement. You can drag wide or shrink this panel depending on how much your screen, how big your screen is, so that you can play around with your drawing. Now this is a length tool. Now this length tool can measure distances or distance, a distance between just 2 points. Assuming I want to go from here to here. Now let me make this document plain so that we can start from scratch. Alright. Okay. Now save as. So if you have not saved your document before, you just want to save. So you come to file as I've done and you click save as. Then I have a clean document sort of. Okay. Now, so like I said, this is the length tool. What it does, 2 points, between 2 points, the distance between 2 points. It cannot do more than that. You understand? It measures the distance just between 2 points. It wouldn't do more than that. Now, but you want to use this polylength tool. This polylength tool, you know, knowing for the fact that we do a lot of measurements and we move from one direction perpendicular to maybe at angle while you are still trying to take off an item, so you want to make use of this polylength tool. So the advantage that one has over the length tool is, you can see I can do multiple directions as it's as I want. So now the difference between, now this drop down arrow beside the polylength tool, it takes us to choose under that same section another tool called perimeter. Now the difference between the perimeter tool and the polylength tool is a perimeter tool will just all the lengths you have taken, and then once you are done, it just gives you one single figure for the length of what you have done. Whereas the polylength tool would have segmented what you are measuring. So now we can see each segment having its own length. Every direction I turn, you understand, having its own length. Now we can make this you can make it bolder. When you select a tool to measure, you can come to settings, or properties rather, this gear icon. When you select an item, now you want to make it bolder. So you can come to appearance section. Probably You want to make it bolder, and where is the offset? Change the color to something different to the color of the drawing. Alright, and perhaps you want the line width to be slightly bolder. The text, color of the text, you want it to be distinct. So you can set those properties to make your information more glaring. Now, one beautiful thing, and one thing I'd like to note for us is, now when you make use of a tool and you set its properties, one beautiful thing is that so that you don't go over these settings every time you get to want to use that particular tool, you can choose either of these two things. Either you set this tool as default, or you add to tool chest. Now, once you add to tool chest, that thing is always available for you. Now we can see on top of the tool chest. Now this is the icon that represents the tool. You understand? Tool chest. Now under my tools, you will see straight away poly length measurement is available for me. If I click on it now, it is available in this format. I can duplicate it like this, or if I don't want to duplicate it, if I double click, it's available for me. I can measure and it will carry those same characteristics. You can see it carries the same characteristics like the last thing I did. So, and for every measurement tool that I use, we always find it here under these recent tools. But one beautiful thing about making sure you add it to my tools is that if you leave it alone, occurring in my recent tools, once you restart Bluebeam, you shut down and restart Bluebeam, I can assure you, you will not find that tool again. But if you have successfully added it to your tool, it makes it reusable. You don't have to go over setting the properties again. I'm going to come back to that. Let me complete now. So we have the area tool. Area tool, once you want to use the area tool, and I'm sure most of the time we want to do area tool, we want to measure our ground floor area. Now, if you are measuring a perfect rectangle, you just select one corner and then drag to the other corner. You understand? You have your what is it called? I'm sure I'm sure you are looking at this and saying, why is this thing showing square foot? I'm going to come back to that. I'm still introducing the tools. I've not started the workflow for quantity takeoff. All right. Now, we have the diameter. As when you are measuring a column, this is very useful to measure the diameter. You understand? Once you measure, now one thing about the area tool and the diameter tool, about the area tool rather, the area tool, you can specify the depth of wherever you are measuring. Then it will automatically give you volume of what you want to calculate. Assuming I specify the depth of I measured the what is it called earlier, the area that I measured. Now I can come back to set the depth. The depth to perhaps 150, 0.15. You can see it will definitely populate, the volume of whatever I've just measured. Area measurement, you can see the volume is being populated. When it didn't have depth, it will remove the volume. It will remove the volume. You can see there's no longer volume there. So now this markup list that I mentioned earlier will be gathering all the measurements you are doing as you are progressing. You don't need to bother yourself writing it out somewhere. As you are doing the measurement, it is populating, this section. You can drag up and down, depending on how you want to All right. So then we have some other tools. The other one that probably is also, you have the count tool. When we want to probably count doors, you know, you can count, you can count, you can count. Then you find it, you know, summing up what you have just counted. Count measurements. You have just counted 3 items. So then we also have in the area too, you have cutout. Cutout. One beautiful thing about cutout is that when I'm measuring the slab for a suspended slab, and the staircase is going to feature somewhere here. So after taking the area measurement, I can still go ahead and just cut out, because I'm not going to cast this area. Then I just come, I just do the cutout. Then I'll remove that section from the slab that I've just measured. You can see the change. Before I did that, you can see the quantity of the slab, but the moment I've done that, you can see what it doesn't say. That taking out that what is it called? Now, before our time really runs away, let me do a demonstration of some basic items of measurement. So let me do a workflow. A workflow. Now, let me delete and make this thing clean again. All right, so I'm a QS. I've picked up a drawing. I've just received a drawing from an architect, a 2-bedroom bungalow. Let me just focus on this. All right, let me just focus on this. This is a ground floor plan. This is just an illustration drawing. It's a ground floor plan. We can use. I use PDF to do this illustration. Now, time will fail me. Some other tools, you know, when you come to, if you see this top right corner, there are some tools there. You have line, you have the arrow. Now with this line and some other tools here, you can create, you know, an illustration. You can illustrate a plan for maybe for discussion. You cannot. I'm not saying you should do the responsibility or carry out the responsibility of an architect. But assuming you are with like this one now is because of a discussion between me and a client, like, oh, these things, okay, and I say, okay, let's illustrate it. Then I carry how can we share space and all of that. So that's that. But today we're only focusing on the digitizing quantity takeoff. So let me start with my workflow. All right. Now when I start and I want to take off in Bluebeam, the first, as I'm opening the drawing, the first thing I like to do is I want to calibrate. Now, you remember when you receive drawing, hard copy drawings, and the architect has stated in the unfortunately title bar. I hope I'm correct. Yeah, that now it has stated in the yes, I think it's title bar. Now what they call it now that the drawing is not to scale. That you have to scale, confirm the scale. Now you remember you have to take your scale rule, and then you do what? You begin to try and understand. Okay, when they say 1 meter here, it is really not 1 meter. It is 250. It is 2.5 meters. That's just for the sake of discussion. But where you get to sort out that is when you are doing your measurements, the computer does not understand the scale that this drawing is. So you have to tell it that, okay, maybe based on a particular dimension that was put on the drawing. In fact, even if there was no dimension on a drawing, Bluebeam gives me confidence that I can do some relatively accurate takeoff. Now, I can see that this is a wall. This is an external wall. And relatively, they will do the external wall with a 230, a 225 mm block. So, either I consider the finish or I limit it to just the wall. I can calibrate and tell Bluebeam that I know 2 points. I tell you that, okay, this to this place is what? Now, I will tell him that my unit is in meter. And I will tell it that that thing I've just measured is a 225, that is what? 0.225 mm. So that it can always recognize anything I want to do. So for example, now if I want to measure just these 2 points, between these 2 points, now it makes sense that this is a door opening, you know, still at 1.05. I don't know if we are following. Can I quickly check how many people have followed me this far? Now I can see somebody saying left part of the screen is not legible. Left part of the screen. Now I want to advise us all to put our phones on landscape mode. It will make whatever we are seeing on the screen to be a little more bolder, a little bolder. Now I like using, when I'm using like, by the way, when we are doing a webinar like this, my personal preference is to use a computer. You know, a computer makes me see whatever the presenter is presenting much more. You know, that's, by the way, that's a personal preference. You know, it's up to everyone to decide what they prefer. All right, so back to our workflow. So I said the first thing I want to do before I start measuring is to tell the computer that from this place to this place in this drawing is 1 meter. So that every markup, every measurement I try to do is going to be as accurate as possible. So calibrate is the first thing on my workflow. So to do that calibration, but that doesn't mean we always forget at times, except we have where we wrote down our workflow. At times we forget. I didn't calibrate the document, so I've done measurements, I've calculated, I've done this, I've done that. I've done that. Let me say I've measured. I've started measuring because the client is putting me under pressure. I did that measurement. I forgot to calibrate. Oh, all of a sudden I remember that I've not calibrated. We can still come back to that calibrate and then apply the right scale. All right. So that's that. But the first thing on the workflow you want to ensure is that, let me do my calculation. Tell the computer that, all right, whatever, when I measure from here to here, it is 50 meters, so that it will give me as accurate as possible. What is it called? Now, so let's say I'm now in the foundation. What I want to start with, or for example, let me say it's a virgin land. The client has just bought a plot of land. We need to do site clearance, so we need to clear the whole site. All right. So my first item. Now, we want to use the area measurement tool. Now, the BSMM requires that you measure site clearance in square meter. So that means you need the area tool. It doesn't have depth. So when you select the tool, you define the subject you are trying to measure. Now, this is now dependent on our imagination. Now, but I like to, as much as possible, now name what I want to measure, name it. Even though at times what I am measuring will be useful for another item of work. You get to see what I mean by that. All right. So now I want to measure. Let me back up a bit. Back up 1 second. Now let me try and illustrate. Let's assume the side boundary for this land. Now I'm borrowing the rectangle tool, and I want to assume this is the whole side. Undo. I want to borrow this rectangle tool. I want to assume this is the whole side. This is the boundary of the site. All right. Now, so I want to do site clearance now. So I've picked my measurement tool, the area measurement tool, and I'm declaring this in my subject as what? Site clearance. All right. Now, then I pick it. It's a fairly rectangular site. Assuming it wasn't rectangular, I can just start going from one corner to another corner to another corner. You understand? Why is it telling me my measurement is not in square feet? Now, we have just observed that I keep maintaining the square foot, and I said we are coming back to that. So when you get to correct that, when you are selecting your tool, you want to ensure, look down here, you want to ensure that the unit of measurement is square meter. You want to ensure that your unit of volume is cubic meter. So now, and like I said earlier, I want this thing to be, I want it to be a tool that I can come back to later. So the way I get to do that is, I've showed you the first way, where you kind of add it to, you come to properties, and then you set all the parameters, you adjust all you need to adjust, and then, okay, it's changing my line pattern. Changing my line pattern. So style, so then I just come, I add it to my tool chest. So then it's available for me anytime I want to do anything side clearance. You understand? I just double click, then I can go ahead and measure any side clearance. You understand? And in case I just remember that, oh no, there is one rock here, or there is one rectangular element here or here, and we are not going to clear that, then I can come back, like I mentioned earlier, and just select the cutout, polygon cutout, and then you just do what? That aspect that needs to be omitted, you take it out, so that what? You adjust your quantity. Alright, so that's that about side clearance. Now, definitely, you know, probably the next thing is you want to start digging it out, or you want to remove your topsoil for the, for the footprint of the building. You understand? Now, I've done some training in some firms, and they tried to ask me, okay, how do you take care of the spread of the foundation when you are doing your topsoil? Now, I usually tell them, somehow, there are either of two ways to it. It's either, you know, I try to use this. I want to add 225 to this side. I want to add 225 to this side. That's 334. I can edit the I can edit it to be accurate. 225. All right. I can edit that. 225. So we adjust that thing. So what does that do for me? That gives me a fair what is it called, of what I want to do. So when I want to do my topsoil, I've carried my area measurement, I'm doing my topsoil remover. Alright, so I'm not starting from the footprints of the building, I'm relatively trying to guess. Now, it's not starting at the edge, so I can drag to the edge. I'm dragging to the edge. I want it to be right at the edge of this. So now that means my topsoil is starting fairly at somewhere here and not here. So then I drag, and I could repeat the same process at this corner to be as accurate as possible, but I could just drop my topsoil remover right there. And like I said, you want to ensure that this thing is going as square meter, and to stop coming back to this thing, like I said earlier, you can come back and say set this thing as default. So that next time I'm carrying the measurement to area, it's doing it in square meters straight away, not in square feet. Alright, then in order to identify some of these measurements, to make them unique, like I've just done my what topsoil, I can decide to come to the settings and just give it a different fill color. Let me say give it a different fill color of, say, you know, purple, and then set the opacity so that I can see what is behind, maybe to 30%. I'm setting the fill opacity to 30%. So that makes me see what is there. So I can still go ahead and do my measurement. So the next thing I want to do now, probably, you want to do your trench excavation. So, and like I mentioned earlier, you either pick the perimeter tool and or the, what is it called? And by standard, you know, we work a lot with center line guard. Now, this is where you've got to be, you know, so that, because there's no need coming back to do some deduct corners or what have you. So to make your measurement as accurate as possible, you want to zoom in, like I've done. You understand? I like, when I'm working with this software, I like to use a mouse, an external mouse. I don't use the mouse of the laptop. You understand? So it makes the zooming quite easy. So I like to zoom in. Now I like to get, you know, come as close as possible to the center of that wall. That's where I begin my measurement from. And to make my measurement as straight as possible, you want to press down the shift button. You can see it snaps the measurement straight to the, you know, to make it straight. So as I'm coming, it's going to try as much as possible to maintain the center as well. Then I'm trying to do it, alright, you know, that snaps at the center for my external walls, snaps at the center. I'm still holding down the shift key because I want my line as straight as possible. Then I'm coming back to my starting point. You can see, voila, I'm there. That's the center line guard. Although, like I said earlier, you know, while I was doing this now, you know, I forgot to describe the subject of what I'm measuring. But that doesn't spoil anything. Then I have the measurement that I've just done. I have it highlighted, I have it selected already. Then I can come back, edit the subject, what I just measured. I started measuring my trench excavation. It depends on what you like to do. It's just for us to know this thing. Now, as been from the sections that I have in the drawing, maybe the depth of the excavation is just straight away 2 meters, 1.5 or 1.2 meters. Now, one thing is, this is my first time of using this tool, so I need to set the settings. I mean, the first time I'm using it on this drawing, so I'm setting the what is it called, parameter, and then I want to go back to ensure that going further it's going to take this as what default, so I don't have to set that thing again. All right. So now I'm sure somebody is wondering that, oh, this thing is not, my trench excavation is in cubic meter, but what I've just done, I've measured only in linear meter, and then what I have here, there's, as I set the depth, there's something it quickly did for me here. It has given me the wall area of the center, the trench excavation. Now, there's a capability that Bluebeam introduced right from what is it called, Bluebeam 2017. I'm working with Bluebeam 2019 here. Now, right from Bluebeam 2017, they created an integration with Microsoft Excel. Now, let me quickly just demonstrate that. We're running out of time. Now, what is this capability that they have provided? Assuming I'm working, you know, assuming this is my bill. Let me see if I can open a bill, or for the sake of time, assuming this is my bill, I have my description, I have my quantity, I have my unit, I have my rate. You understand? Now, there are quite a number of ways that Bluebeam introduce, you know, for us to interact with Excel. Let me add the rate amount and the amount column. All right. All right. Now, assuming this is my bill, now I can bring in quantities of items. You know, assuming I've gotten to my trench, and this particular trench that I'm dealing with now, I can bring in my quantity from Bluebeam. Now, I said Bluebeam installs some plugin on some of our softwares as we're installing Bluebeam. Now, if you right-click this cell, then first save it. What's the matter? All right. So what then is the problem? Now, if you observe my screen, now in the drop-down arrow, you can see this option. I don't know why it's not coming up here. What's the problem? But what I was about introducing us to is this first item on this link, on this drop-down. When you right-click a cell after installing Bluebeam, now there's this thing called quantity link. What does it do for me? It can help me interact my Excel spreadsheet with my Bluebeam. So I click on create. It takes some seconds. I click on add. I will add the file I want to link my Excel file to. We are working currently on this file now. Now, it has captured this. It will do what? Say OK. Then it will ask me, what quantity do I want to link now? I want to copy the quantity in my trench. Let's sure you understand. Now, that's the area. All right. So, now let's go back here. Let me edit. What I wanted to capture is wall area. Wall area of. Now, we can see wall area, which subject. It is the wall area of what? Trench excavation. Bam. So, then you can see what we have here is 46.92. What we have here is what? 46.92. So everything I described in my bill, trench excavation. I can go ahead straight away. Now, perhaps in the quantity column, assuming this is the quantity column, then I just do straight away this times whatever the thickness of the width of the trench excavation is probably, let's say, 0.675. Now 0. This formula now to round off my, what is it called? Alright, so I've got 32 cubic meter. Now the beauty of this quantity link is that, assuming for one reason or the other, okay, we have not finished the measurement. So assuming we continue to do the measurement, do you understand? And it's still trench excavation, we are still measuring. So let's say we added, you know, we have not added this, then we added it. Now straight away we have seen that it has added this, right? Now, it has added that. Now we need to add this. All right. So we can see that, let me drag this markup list up. So we can see for our trench excavation, we can see that it kept on increasing, right? Now, as it is increasing here, I can bet you it is increasing here, capturing anything that goes on. That's one beautiful thing about this application. Now, let me ask from the audience, I don't know how many people are still here with us. It's past 8 already. What's our opinion concerning continuing, or for how long can we continue? I was told I had 1 hour initially, and the session is 1 hour. I started. So what do we do, Mr. Moderator?
Sir. Hello, sir.
What do we do? It's 10 minutes past 8.
I will still have roughly like 15 or 20 minutes.
15 or 20 minutes. Okay, let me see what we can capture within that. So now somebody is saying I have all the time. Now, but all right. So so that's that about trench excavation. So now, like I said earlier, assuming I want to measure my slab now. So I've shown you the quantity link. It depends on how you really want to use this software. So I want to do my slab. I come here. I'm not doing topsoil. I want to do my ground slab, overside concrete. Now, okay, let me not jump the filling. Now, it depends on how we are comfortable with. Assuming I want to do the filling. The filling is what? Let me say I want to do the laterite filling. All right. Now, the depth of the laterite filling is 0.15. All right. So I'll just come. Realistically speaking, these are the areas I want to fill. I'm dragging. I'm dragging. It becomes easier if we are working with areas that are fairly rectangular. And if it's not rectangular, it's just for me to be carrying, following the shape of the place. I'm dragging, I'm selecting. Then I'm done. Then I'm done. So I'm done with the filling for this, and it has told me straight away it is 11 meter and 10 meter cube. I'm done with that. Then, so my DPM, assuming I'm doing reinforcement, fabric mesh reinforcement, all of that. Like I mentioned earlier, you can use one, what is it called, to do several measurements. Now I want to do, what is it called, the overside concrete, or let's say there was hardcore, or let's say there was a fabric mesh, whatever. It's a square meter area I want to measure, but let me do the overside concrete, which is a cubic meter item. So the depth, for the sake of our conversation, 0.15. Now, I just go straight away. Let me set the properties. We fill to this. We fill opacity to 40. And then I go straight away from the footprint of the building to this point, to this point, to this point, to this point, and and to this point, bam. So I'm done with my oversight concrete. Now I could add this, like I mentioned earlier, I could add it to my tool chest. Add it to my tool chest, my tools. It's there. Oversight concrete is there. And in case I want to duplicate it, you understand? Now, but I want to change the properties. Maybe because I want to use it for my, what is it called? Alright, because I want to change it to, what is it called? I want to change it to, this is my oversight concrete now, but I want to change it to fabric mesh reinforcement, or my DPM that is over the side. So I can as well do DPM. So DPM is in square meter. You understand? So now what I did here to change the way it's listed it is I click the gear button and gap button. Then I choose the symbol mode, or so it is now a tool. If I want to measure my DPM now, I just select it. I'm duplicating this measurement. Bam. I've done my DPM. If you come down here, you can see DPM. It has been measured straight away. Now, but even though it's measured, it gave it a depth, I can edit the properties and just tell it that it doesn't have a depth. My DPM doesn't have a depth under the measurements too. My DPM doesn't have a depth. What is 0? All I need is just the area. You can see it has taken away that. So for fabric reinforcement, we can see that we can just do, this is the capability that this thing has. We can just do as much as we do. Now, I'd like to show us something before we close. Now, assuming we've got into finishes, you understand, I want to measure finishes. Now, we could have different type of finishes. So, I want to show us just a capability. I wish that we had time to show us how we can build up rate, add the rate issue, how we can include rate in this thing. Please, if you have questions, kindly drop them. Okay, yeah. Alright. The markup list is not showing on your PC. Now, it must definitely be, at the bottom. Now, if it is not showing, somebody is asking, pay attention, look at something. On my PC now, it's not showing at the moment. But you know what? By the time you move your cursor down to the lower part, you will see the cursor is changing shape. The moment it changes shape to this icon with arrows in 2 directions, up and down direction, just select and drag up, or you click, it will show up. Try that and let us get a feedback from you for that person that said he couldn't see. Alright, so now I was trying to introduce us to something in this markup list. Now, assuming I was doing finishes measurement, now I did laterite filling. I can duplicate laterite filling. Do you understand? Let's say I'm willing to let me not duplicate. Let me do the finishes. Right? Let me say I've gotten to finishes. Then my settings, I'm setting it on a different color. Let me give it a pink color, opacity of 30. Alright, okay, so back. Alright, now, so let me just take the wet areas. just for the sake of conversation. This is one toilet, this is another toilet. So let me just take these two. The floor finish. Now what do I want to measure? I'm not measuring, so I want to do, let me say, floor tiles. Alright, I'm measuring floor tiles. Alright, so now let me just take this, a couple of areas. This is one area, this is one area, this is another area. Now this is another area. Alright, now in my markup list, I've done my floor tiles, but I can add, you can see columns here. Now these columns are showing the information about the, alright, more columns depending on the level of information I really want to provide. I can even add options. Let me just deal with that. Now when we come to markup list, there's an arrow, drop down arrow beside it. When you arrow, you see columns. Now when you click on the columns, you have options here, and you see manage columns. When you click on manage columns, you come here, you can set the order. You can choose which column you want to see, the ones you don't want to see. You can come to some columns to add. Now that we are dealing with the issue of floor tiles, and in the toilet, we probably want to use a vitrified non-slip tiles. Now, maybe in public area, in other areas, you can use the glazed, ceramic. Now, so let's just assume we have those. Let's assume we have those two options. Now, I can come here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 kind of information I can add to that one item. Now, I will then choose choice because I'm having options. Now, what are the choices I have? Let me add. Now, for which item? I have non-slip, whatever type, whatever way you want to describe, non-slip, vitrified. Alright? Then, which subject does this item relate to? So that it doesn't apply to all objects, and the subject that applies to is what? Floor tiles. So assuming I'm trying to use this document to assign rate. So let me say the rate is what? Maybe 2,400 per square meter. Now I'm applying that. Now what other option do I have? I'm adding another option. We have the glazed ceramic. Which object? Steel floor tiles. Now, what does it do for us? Let's say we are choosing maybe a higher brand. Let's say 3,500 per square meter. Alright, so we have added those options. When we click OK, now what's the name of what I'm adding? I'm just adding now floor tiles. Can I choose floor tiles? Now let's say tile type. Alright. Now, immediately we see a new column apply here. And when I want to ensure that I differentiate, now the one for, I mentioned earlier that this area is the toilet. Now, I just need to double click here and tell it that is what? Non-slip. The other areas, I double click, which area is that? Glaze, ceramic. This area is where? Glaze. This area is also glazed. Now, where the rate I mentioned earlier, comes to play, I can add another column for rate. And in this case, it's not a text. I'm using a number. And I'm using what? Currency. Because there is no naira here, I can decide to leave it as what? Just